Well, there's no other way to say it. This debate was an unmitigated disaster. Was it even the worst debate in recorded history? It might very well be. In fact, the last time Donald Trump and Joe Biden debated back in 2020, there was two debates. I thought the first one was upsetting and sad. This one was for other reasons, okay? So Biden started off wandering onto the stage. Now, of course, there's memes of him wandering around aimlessly, and he didn't put those memes to rest because he seemed not himself. He seemed old and in decline, as he did when he began speaking, too. It just got worse. So as he began talking, he was clearing his throat. He was speaking very softly. He seemed to be struggling to express himself. He was stumbling over his words and stuttering more than he usually does. Or you could say about as bad as he is accused of doing so. So he struggled. There were several moments where he neglected to finish his train of thought. He just kind of trailed off. So pretty bad. Now, Trump, in comparison, presented strong. He displayed strength when he spoke. He seemed calm, composed. He had energy. He didn't struggle to think of the next word. He was his usual self. Now, of course, towards, as the debate progressed, he went off on tangents. He went off on he began to state his alternative facts and so forth. But in comparison to Joe Biden, Donald Trump came across as the winner in this debate, most certainly. There's no other way to say it. When Donald Trump was making accusations against Joe Biden, if you had this on your bingo card, congratulations, he said, I've never heard so much malarkey in my life. So for everybody out there that had him saying malarkey, he said malarkey. But Biden just seemed disoriented and confused. They both went off topic. For Trump, it was a much bigger problem. For so many of the questions, if not all of the questions, when he was asked directly a simple question, he began to go off topic and speak about totally unrelated issues. When he was asked about climate change, he seemed to be mixing up the questions from before, and he started talking about black jobs and immigration. So totally nothing to do with climate change or global warming. And multiple times, both candidates, but more so Trump, had to be asked the question again because they didn't respond the first time. We had the unprecedented statement in the debate when Joe Biden brought out, this seemed like a prepared talking point. He talked about the hush money payments and having sex with a porn star. And Donald Trump had the audacity to say in front of all of America and the debate moderators and Biden that I didn't have sex with a porn star. So I think even his supporters would say that he probably did. So the fact that he could make such a plain, bold-faced lie with such ease and effortlessness seemed to be a little odd. So in all, oddly enough, this debate, even with that even just said, this debate was more civil than I think a lot of people anticipated. I think, so there was a previous rally where Trump, he threatened to be nasty and mean and tough during these debates, or he could be nice. He seemed to be figuring out which kind of strategy to go into this debate. Should he be really hard, really tough on Biden, his usual self, with lots of vitriol, or should he be calm and composed and let Biden, stumble on his own? He definitely did get kind of nasty at times, but overall you could see the prevailing strategy for him, which worked too well. I think he was even surprised at how well it worked. He just let Biden talk, and Biden didn't do so well in that dynamic. So Joe Biden, another example, he was asked very directly, the moderators asked, the American people are concerned about your age. And Joe Biden just went off on these talking points, like he was just reading off of a script that he had memorized and they didn't have any notes. So he was just going from his memory and didn't even answer the question. He said nothing to respond to concerns of his age, which is ironic because this whole debate, that's what everybody's going to be talking about is his age. And he did not allay those concerns at all. So in debates, you have matters of substance, of style, of character, and ethics. All of those came into play here. If we're looking at substance, Trump was off topic. He made clear misstatements, false facts. Joe Biden, he didn't answer certain obvious questions, and on many occasions, he neglected to clearly respond and refute what he didn't respond to or refute what Trump was saying. Now, the moderators here played an interesting role. So in many debates, the moderators are heavily involved and active in stopping the candidates when they're going over time, interrupting them when they're lying. Now, for this debate, Dana Bash and Jake Tapper, they just let it play out. So Trump and Biden were civil enough in taking their turns. The mics being turned on and off took care of that. So they just took a step back. Now, I could only assume that they didn't want to be subject to claims of, bias towards Biden. So they just kind of let things go and let Biden defend himself. And Biden didn't do a good job of defending himself. So you could argue that CNN, in setting up this debate, set things up for failure, okay? Because they didn't really allow the candidates to have a proper dialogue with the mics being cut off, the moderators not stepping in and being more forceful in ensuring that the candidates actually responded to the questions that they were asked. So it was kind of by design, but it was designed to fail. So let's take a look here. So we've got the closing statements, and I think this encapsulates what we saw throughout this whole debate. So let's take a look.
It is now time for the candidates to deliver their closing statements as predetermined by a coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit, number one. He's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies.
So you can see here, Joe Biden really struggling to express himself, and it was pretty much this way throughout the debate. He started off really bad. He did get better. By that point, a lot of people had tuned out, and the damage was done. And he ended again on a weak note. So for the president of the United States, running for re-election, seeking the very highest office, on the planet, with the position of most consequence and power, where part of the job is communicating with the American people, trying to persuade us, to advance his policy positions on what's right. So he's not able to do that with confidence. So one of the main goals of president beyond policy, So persuasion and communication, he cannot do. So what's the consequence here? Is he going to step down? It looks like he is. So the convention is coming up in August, and he is the nominee. So it would have to be his choice to decide to step down and let somebody else take his place. So that doesn't seem likely to happen. It seems very unlikely to happen unless enough people push him hard enough to convince him otherwise, unless an alternative candidate comes up that seems more viable than him. Otherwise, he doesn't seem like he is going to step down, because he probably would have already, but this is only raising those concerns even more. So what did you think about this debate debacle? And what did you think about Trump's and Biden's performance? Okay. So if I had to grade everybody here, I would give Biden a D-. Okay. There was times where he did function effectively and provide some meaningful answers, but not very well. Trump, not much better. D+. So better in comparison, but objectively bad. Now, CNN, for hosting these debates, I give them a fail, because this just was not a good, productive, enjoyable, debate at all. Besides the fact that now we know Joe Biden has removed all doubts about him being too old. We know he is. So what are your thoughts about this? Do you think he should step down? Let me know, and I'll see you next time.